Hello again, Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game fans and LTR SPG team fans as well. Thank you for attending another Army Review Series video, and this time we're actually doing something different. We have Joe and myself again here. Say hello, Joe.
Hello.
We are going to be doing, as we alluded to in the Rohan video, a breakdown of the Legendary Legions. Now, we're going to be doing the Legendary Legions strictly from the Gondor at War book. So if you're unfamiliar with that, go ahead and grab your book and take a look. That rhymes. Funny. And we're going to be covering the 8 of them today. This may become a two-part video because of the fact there's so many of them, and Joe and I have actually played against the majority of them and have, between the two of us, played most of these armies as well. So there are 8. Just to cover them real quick, straight from the book. This is in no order. I'm just going straight out of the book. It's the Rangers of Ithilien, Grey Company, the Return of the King, the Riders of Théoden, the Men of the West, the Army of Gothmog, Grand Army of the South, and the Black Gate opens. I believe that was all 8. Yep, that's all 8. So, yeah, Joe, what do you think about Legendary Legions, just in general? Joe?
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
No, my mic cut out.
Oh, it's all good. I said, what do you think about Legendary Legions, just in general?
So what I think about Legendary Legions is this. There's two, in my opinion, there are 2 types of Legendary Legions. There are Legendary Legions that are highly thematic and that are kind of represented on. They're not, like in terms of like the rules and stuff. I'm looking at this in 2 different standpoints: as a competitive player and as a player who likes playing thematic ways, right?
Yeah. I agree
So
with
the
that.
first one is this list competitive? A lot of them are not. Gondor War, a lot of them are, but some of the other ones I don't think they are. And then, like, how much fun can I have with them? And all of them are fun. So I really like the Legendary Legions. In fact, pretty much all the armies I play now are Legendary Legions. If it's the Scouring of the Shire, I'm going to take the Scouring of the Shire Legendary Legion. If it's Gondor War, I'm more than likely going to take a Legendary Legion at Gondor War. And I've even dabbled in some of the Rohan War ones. I haven't taken any of the Legendary Legions out of the Quest of the Ringbearer yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah, I would agree with Joe. There's 2 ways to look at it. He basically covered it from a thematic and a competitive standpoint. And I think the Legendary Legions really helped, combine the 2. So I like to think of myself as a thematic player. Most of my armies that I take, they've got a theme behind them. For example, one of my favorite armies is fiefdoms, like I've said multiple times through these reviews. So when I play fiefdoms, the majority of the times I'm usually playing in pure because, that's who was, fighting together. You had the Knights of Dol Amroth working with the clansmen of Lamadon. You had Angmor the Fearless working with, Dunhir from the Blackroot Vale. So all those are, thematic. I do like to believe I can be competitive as well. And so when I was looking at these, I looked at it both from a thematic standpoint, like Joe said, and a competitive standpoint. Some of them are really good. Some of them are not so good, in my opinion. But overall, I think they're just a lot of fun. So what Joe and I are going to do today is we've actually individually ranked these Legendary Legions from 8 to 1, which one we think is the worst, all the way up to which one we think is the best. And we're just going to take turns going back and forth and then talking about why we think, that Legendary Legion should be in that position. So obviously, as we get closer to the top, we're already covering difference because I think Joe and our lists are very different to each other just because of the way that we think strategically and mentally, which is a good thing. That's the great thing about this game is that a lot of people think differently. So we'll go ahead and Joe, I'm actually going to let you go ahead and start off. Who is your number 8 pick for these 8 Legendary Legions?
Okay, guys. So full disclosure, I haven't play tested any of the evil armies in Gondor War. So I personally, and I haven't actually, I don't think I've versed any of the evil armies in this. So I don't know what they can do. I just see on paper what they can do, and I'm like, okay, that's a cool rule, but I can see other things being more viable in the Legendary Legions in Gondor War. So the first number 8 pick I have or the only number 8 pick I have, is the Black Gate opens. I realize that you can get the buffed up Troll Chieftain. I realize that you have a lot of other elements in it, but the way I think when I play Mordor, it's lacking a lot of pieces that really make Mordor stuff good, like a Ring Wraith with Harbinger of Evil, like a Goth Mog, things like that. So I have it at number 8. I just don't know because I've never versed it. So for all I know, that buffed up Cave Troll guy is awesome, but at the same token, I just don't think it would be something that you could see on the top 3 at a tournament.
Yeah. So the Black Gate opens. If you're not familiar with it, it's the Mouth of Sauron. This is your army composition because the way Legendary Legions work, for those who don't know, you get an army composition and it comes from one of the armies in the books. And so for this one, Black Gate opens is obviously around Mordor. So the models are coming from Mordor. So you get an army composition, you get additional rules. These are things you have to that either you get for free or you have to adhere to in order to take the Legendary Legion. And then you've got a list of special rules that kind of buff the Legendary Legion. And then there's designer notes at the very bottom, kind of explaining why they went with this direction that they went with for the army composition. So for this one, you can take the Mouth of Sauron, and he can take an armored horse. You can take a Mordor Troll Chieftain, Moran Orc Captain with shield or two-handed weapon, Orc Captain with a warg, bow, or shield, an Orc Warrior that can take a banner, Orc bow, shield, spear, two-handed weapon, or Moran and Orc with banner, shield, or spear. And then the last model in the army composition is a Mordor Troll that can take a war drum. So, like Joe is saying, most people who play Mordor, unless you're going with a horde, are usually taking a Ring Wraith. And then if you're hoarding it out, you're usually having like Goth Mog or Shagrat in it. So
yeah.
The biggest weakness for this is like if you looked at that, you've got 4 heroes, and none of them are really amazing.
Yeah, I've played Mordor a bunch. I've played test army a bunch, and I think Mordor is a really good versatile army. And you can take they might have the most profiles in the game. I don't know if they do now, but so like for instance, this Legendary Legion, I look at it, I'm like, okay, the Mouth of Sauron can cast Transfix. He only has like 3 or 4 points of will.
Yeah, he's got 4, and he doesn't need to get any bonuses or anything.
Yeah, he himself is relatively easy to kill.
Yeah, he's defense 6. There's nothing to laugh at, but he's only got 1 point of fate and 2 wounds.
Yeah, the Troll Chieftain is going to be your leader by default. He does gain Fearless, an additional point of Might, Will, and Fate. So, but I can see like an army. I can see like for instance the counterparts of this army, the Men of the West, being able to slaughter that Troll Chieftain relatively easily, with heroes like Aragorn or paired it with Gandalf and stuff. And then
anything to laugh at though, having a Troll Chieftain.
No,
has 3/2/2 for its stat file. I think that is the best part of the army. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Is armies like this and like the Helm Hammerhand Legendary Legion, where you have one really good piece and the rest of your army's kind of
Yeah, I agree.
Because, for instance, you only have one guy that can strike in your list, and that's the Troll Chieftain.
Correct.
And if you took this list and you ended up versing a Balrog on the next other side of the table than you, I'd be pretty scared.
Oh, I'd be terrified. I mean, the Troll Chieftain is pretty good, but I think fight 8, fight 7. Yeah, fight 7.
Fight 7, yeah. He has strike and strength, I believe, and I think he might have challenge.
No, strike and strength. Well, to talk about the Mouth of Sauron, since you mentioned him, he actually does have Transfix.
Yeah. Yeah, he has, how was he, 2 points of will or 2 points of might?
2 points of might, 4 will, 1 fate. You said he did have Transfix. My apologies.
Yeah.
But he's got 2 spells. Yeah.
Does he have Instill Fear?
He does. He's got Instill Fear, Transfix, Train Courage.
So I can see
channeling for his heroic.
I can see if of course if your dice rolls allow it to cast, I can see you making some good plays with the Mouth of Sauron and the Troll Chieftain. But if that doesn't fall through, if that doesn't work out for you, then I also could see this list where you don't take any of the heroes, you just take Troll Chieftains leading your warbands.
Yes,
I could
Troll Chieftains,
and I could see that actually working out pretty good.
Yeah. So, but I would say the Mouth of Sauron is actually not a bad piece. Probably not very good overall. He's a pretty good medium tier because he is Strength 4, Defense 6. He has Terror, 2 attack, 2 wounds, and he's the only model in this list that you can take outside of Orc Captain that can be mounted. So if you could use him maybe in combat to get a charge off, then 3 attacks with knockdown power. I don't know. I'm just trying to justify why this army might be semi.
And so this is going to sound kind of so when I talk about my first pick, you guys are going to be like, well, that's kind of contradictory. But one thing about this list too is you can't have any mounted troops aside from your hero, the Mouth of Sauron, and you're going to want him to be doing magic-y things probably for the first 2 turns, or trying to.
Yeah, well, at least gets him the ability to do some kiting with his spell casting. But yeah, let's cover the special rules real quick. So there's 2 of them. Greatest of the Trolls, and this is the Mordor Troll Chieftain that is your leader gains a fearless special rule and an additional point of Might, Will, and Fate. So, like just said, that under the additional rules, your force has to include a Mordor Troll Chieftain, and the Mordor Troll Chieftain is counted as being a hero of valor and must be the force's leader. And then you can take additional ones as normal, like Joe said. So one of your trolls is going to be a 3/2/2. He's going to be a valor, so he's going to be able to lead up to 15 models. And it's not bad. It's not great. And not bad. He's got fearless. Not amazing, but I would kind of be afraid of a terror-causing, fearless 3 might, 2 will, 2 fate troll, which strength 7, fight 7, that can come in and rend the heck out of you and do a heroic strike or a heroic combat.
And here's the thing about my list, guys, is a lot of these armies I haven't versed or play tested. Evil on the evil side, and a lot of the ones that I've ranked higher they're very close in my mindset. So honestly, I think all of them are worth trying. I think that this one, I don't see it because I'm thinking on a thematic thing. This thing is great. It recreates the scene in the movies. On a competitive point, which is kind of my big thing, is I think you could probably win a handful of scenarios with it. Mm-hmm. I do realize you can take a bunch of Defense 6 Marine and Orcs. You could probably have at least 50 models in this list at 800 points.
Yeah, you should. I think even with the trolls being expensive, you can spam.
So you could definitely win. You could definitely win scenarios like domination. You could definitely win scenarios like capture and control. I could see this list struggling with scenarios like reconnoiter or storm the camp.
Or the supplies.
I could also see it having some trouble in Lords of Battle, depending on what heroes you pick. If you take all Troll Chieftains, I could see you doing pretty good, because Troll Chieftains are scary.
Yeah,
and they could do a lot of damage.
Chieftains doing some heroes could definitely get you some points.
But that's kind of my mindset on this one.
Yeah.
That's why I have it ranked number 8.
So the other special rule I'll cover real quick is the Hordes of Mordor. And that is Mordor Orc models gain a bonus of +1 to wound in a duel in which they outnumber their opponent in a fight. Note that the supporting models do not count for either side for the purpose of this rule. So basically, if you got 2 models in base contact with the one you're fighting, you're going to get +1 to wound. I think that's a nice cheeky special thing because, like you just said, Joe, the more you should be able to hoard this army out. I think you can get 50 models or better at 800 points. Let's be honest.
It pretty much has the Mordor. That's pretty much the Mordor army bonus, I believe. And I think for this list, it would be really good, especially if you take regular orcs who are strength 3, getting that +1 wound. If you wanted to straight up hoard them, I think if I was to play this list, I would take Morannons, who are strength 4, needing 5s to wound defense 6, and then needing 4s with the bonus.
Yeah.
So I can see you having like a few really good turns in combat and really breaking your opponent. But I just think some of the mobility scenarios and some of the scenarios that require you to move great distances to do objectives. Does the Troll Chieftain have March?
He does not, but
the captains do.
Captains and the Mouth of Sauron.
Okay, so that might be a reason to take a captain, or I would probably definitely take the Mouth of Sauron just because I want to cast some magic on someone.
I mean, from a thematic standpoint, I think the army is great, like you said, Joe. From a competitive standpoint, I feel like you have to take the Mouth of Sauron because he gives you that piece, like you said, where you get 2 turns, maybe 3, depending on what you're doing, with throwing some cheap magic around, and then he gives you a strength 4 model that on the charge can get 3 attacks. And then I would probably not even take the Moran or captains because I think, aren't they strength 5?
Yeah.
As good as that is, they can't be mounted. So I'd rather have an orc captain on a warg that can get the extra attack on the charge. And then they've also got they're a little bit cheaper, so they can get marches. So you could squeeze 2 of those into your army and get some extra marches in, so you can save the might with the Mouth of Sauron. As much as I would love to say, let's use the Mouth of Sauron for marches.
True. I didn't realize
use that might for spells.
I didn't realize the captain can take a warg. That's actually pretty good. That kind of, in a way, that kind of mitigates some of the pause I'd have of taking this list to a tournament, or if I wanted to do good at a tournament at least.
Yeah. So that is the Black Gate opens. So my number 8, and this is going to be one that some people are like, what? But I looked at this from competitive standpoint when I was ranking these, because I think that's how most people like them. Thematically, I think all these lists are amazing, but I tried to do it more competitively. But my number 8 is the Grey Company. And Joe, you've actually got the most experience playing with the Grey Company. My thoughts on this is from watching your battle reports and from just my preference for how I play.
Yeah, so I really like this. I really like this Legendary Legion. It has a lot of the same problems that the Black Gate Opens does, where it has a lack of mounted.
Yes, it has no mounted at all.
Yeah, which is a big problem with my number 1 pick actually. But my number 1 pick has a lot of things that kind of mitigate that.
Mm-hmm.
So the number 1 pick for this is, of course, I like this Legendary Legion. Aragorn is great. Legolas, Halbarad, the Eladon, Elrahir, Gimli, they're all really good picks for heroes. Rangers of the North are good, but the fact that they're so pricey in terms of their points cost, you tend to be outnumbered a lot in this Legendary Legion, especially depending on what points you're playing and what heroes you take.
Yeah.
I personally have seen, in my mindset, I think might as well just take the points and try and take some of the bigger heroes like Aragorn. If I was to take this list to tournament, I'd take Aragorn. I think you have to take Aragorn.
Yeah, it must include, and he is the leader.
Yeah, and I would probably take Halbarad for the banner and the Fearless because he has the banner of Arwen Evening Star, or you can give it to him.
Yeah.
So then third pick, I would either pick the Eldon and Elrahir. If I don't take them, then I would take Gimli and Legolas. I don't know if I would take all 4 of them. I would take either those 2 or the other 2. I think Eldon and Elrahir would be great because they're 3 attack possibly because they have their rule where you can go 3 attack or 2 into weapon or whatever.
Yeah.
They're both 3 might, but then Legolas and Gimli are 3 might. Legolas is a better shooter than Eladon and Elrahir. Gimli can hit harder than Eladon and Elrahir. So it's kind of one of those things where it's a trade-off. If you take all 4, then you're probably not going to have as many Rangers. So it's kind of a catch-22. When I play this list, it does really good the first few turns where you still have a lot of might. You hit really hard, and I honestly thought I was going to win. We were playing to the death, and I thought I was going to win because I smashed him the first few turns. But he still had enough models left and enough heroes left in his list where he was able to start trapping my guys. And subsequently, I had one turn where I got broken and quartered in the same turn.
Was that your game against me, or was that your game against Sam?
That might have been my game against Sam.
Okay.
Because I remember I versed Sam in Ill Met by Moonlight, which is a tailor. We rolled randomly for it, but it's a tailor-made scenario for him to beat this army because everyone in this list is a hero.
Yep.
So of course he had more hero kills than me at the end of the game, and he did break me and quarter me in that one turn. And I think when I versed you, it was the same story. I did really good the first few turns. I was like, well, I'm probably gonna win this game because I'm slaughtering guys. And then you had enough heroes and enough models left when I was starting to dwindle on might. Were you able to trap me? And that was on Destroy the Supplies. Yeah. And this list definitely did not have enough models to
do anything for destroying the supplies.
Yeah, to contend that. But I think this list.
No, you could go ahead.
Yeah, I think this list would do really good in the scenarios that require you to kill your opponent's army, like Lords of Battle, Lords of the Death. I think pretty much all the mobility scenarios, like Reconnoiter, Destroy the Supplies, it's the same thing as the Legendary Legion, the Black Gate Legendary Legion. It kind of lacks mobility. Aragorn does have March, and he can call it for free with his recurring might, which is a good thing. But again, this list you also want to try and use some of your bow shots.
So my thoughts on it, the reason I have it number 8 is pretty much just said it. It's you've got no mobility. All your heroes are on foot. Oh, and by the way, all you have is heroes. There are no troops in this list. It's Aragorn, Halbarad, Legolas, Gimli, Eladon here, and Rangers of the North. That's it. So you have basically 7 models to choose from because Eladon are here too. Excuse me. And they're all expensive. So I think at like a low points cost game, maybe 600, maybe even lower, maybe 500, you might be able to do okay with it. And I think my first takes would honestly usually probably be Aragorn, Legolas, and Halbarad, uh, because all three of them have a bow. All three of them have 3 points of might, plus because Aragorn's at his reoccurring. And then Legolas lets you get 3 shots. So just with those 3 models, you have 5 shots right away. I do think I would want to take Eladin Error here if it is possible, depending on the points value or the points limit, just because of the fact that it gives you a couple more elf bows. And that strength 3 is nothing to laugh at.
I would like to say this in the Return of the King one, Aragorn gets Anduril for free.
Yes.
Which is an automatic upgrade. It's free, and I think that is huge because you're pretty much outpointing your opponent at that point. So like I used to wrestle in high school, and I watched a lot of like MMA and stuff, and it'd be the same premise of you going to a wrestling match or you going into an MMA match and then outweighing your opponent by 50 points, and then it not being a big deal.
Right.
And I think that does add up. I think I think one of the reasons why my number one pick, which we'll go into, is that's a big reason. The only reason for this list, I don't know if it's just because of the price cost of everything. And plus your Rangers, your whole army gains woodland creature, which is good for woodland boards and stuff. Rangers of the North may benefit from Steadfast of Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Halbarad, Eldon Elrahir. Additionally, Rangers increase their attack value to 2, while their infantry keyword, which they're always going to be infantry keyword in this Legendary Legion.
That's passing with this great company special that Joe just covered.
Yeah, and
the other
that's good because
the Silver, where Aragorn gets it for.
Yeah, the ability to be able to stay on the battlefield. So, like for instance, if I take Halbarad, I'm probably gonna give him the banner of Arwen Evening Star. So him and everything within 6 inches of him is fearless. So your heroes probably aren't gonna flee. Because when I play this Legendary Legion, I try and keep everything compact and close together, so they're supporting one another. So that's a good bonus for if you get broken first, or if you're,
having to charge a lot of Terra models.
Yeah, it's a good perk.
Terra, Army of the Dead, and like we just said, the Trolls from the Black Gate Open, or Terra, Mouth of Sauron's Terra. There's a lot of Terra models out there right now. Terra is kind of the meta that's been around, so you need something to kind of fight against it with Bodyguard or High Courage, and having Fearless with the banner armor and Even Star is really good. I would say that is one of the best things about this list, is the fact that you can get that. And I believe it's a 6-inch banner too, right?
6-inch banner and a 6-inch Fearless bubble.
Yeah, there you go. So, overall, like Joe said, you keep the mouse scale. So the additional rules is you have to include Aragorn Strider, who is the army's leader. I think we already covered that. And then the Great Company army is always deployed as a single warband, regardless of the number of models, with Aragorn as the warband's captain. So you've only got one warband. So that can really, really hurt. I think that's another big detractor for this list when you're thinking competitively, is, the majority of games, other than Reconnoiter, which, we usually do the house rule of alternating warbands, is you alternate deployment. So if you lose deployment, you win deployment, you actually don't want to win deployment. You're going to drop your one warband, a very small warband, in one place on your side of the field, and then your opponent can put their warbands wherever the heck they want. So in a objective-based scenario like Joe and I played against Joe. What did we play? I think 700 points, and it was Isengard Dunlin is what I played. You played the Great Company.
But
he put his warband in one spot, and I'm like, okay, that's where it's at. So I dropped 2 warbands on the outsides, and then went and destroyed the objectives for destroy the supplies, because he had to spend a couple turns moving to go over there and defend them. And this army doesn't really want to move a lot. It wants to be able to sit and shoot, because of the fact that everybody other than Gimli has a bow. And again, that's kind of why I think if you can get them in there, Ellen and Eller here are really good. because of the fact that they have 6 points of might between them, plus they can take elven bows. So you're going to have a couple more strength 3 shots. I think this is one of the lists where I would almost every time use Legolas's 3 shots just to have some extra shots going down at my opponent, because you're going to be outmodeled. I just feel like there's no army in the game that's going to not outmodel you.
And the games I've had, the playtest games I've had with this Legendary Legion, this list does hit like a freight train. You have so much might on the table, and you have so many projectile weapons. It's like, okay, well, I honestly have done really good. Like I said, the first few turns, even in combat, the first few turns I've done really good in. But then subsequently, it's not enough damage to be able to later game not get trapped, not have heroes envelop you with numbers and spear supports. And you got to think, probably 800 points, you're probably going to have around, depending on what heroes you pick, you could probably have around 20 models in this list. You're versing your opponent who has, and it also depends. So like I said, guys, it depends on what heroes you pick. Both times I've taken this list, I've gone hero heavy. Just because
it's all heroes.
Well, I mean, like the big heroes, and I feel that you could play this list differently, where you take just Aragorn and Halbarad, who are the more important pieces, and then you can just take all Rangers. So I can see you playing it different ways. Just the times I've done it, it hits really hard. It definitely would have won scenarios like Domination or Lords of Battle or To the Death, which are based on killing your opponent. I can see you winning capture control with this, but it'd be hard, and it also depend on who you verse, like what army they're playing. But I just see it being a good army, really thematic. It's a part of the book I love, which is the Grey Company.
Yes, I agree. That is probably one of the best chapters in the book.
Yeah, if you're wanting to take it to a tournament, and if you're wanting to place, in the top half, you probably could. But in terms of getting in the top 1, 2, 3, I'm not so sure. It would depend on. It would depend on what opponents you verse, and that kind of thing. If your opponent was playing like John Sparr's army, where you're versing Azog's Hunters or Azog Legion with all ogres and stuff, you probably would beat that list in a domination but that would be very situational.
I think I would probably enjoy taking this list to one of the small local events that I host in the run. Yeah, because it would just be fun to be able to take out to a 600 or 700 point event, which is usually what those are, and just have some fun with it. Nothing crazy, nothing overly aggressive. I just think it would be really fun to do. But like Joe said, I really, depending on how many people, I could really see you even having a hard time making it like top 5 in an event. That's not to say that some people might be able to find ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to make it possible and you just play tested this list in every scenario against every possible opponent, like friend or whoever you have, and you found a really good key to victory with it, I mean, I think it's possible. But
I would guard that secret with your life too, just to be really cool.
Yeah, this video is like kind of our opinions on it, and in my personal experience and Jason's, it's one that's great. It does really good on certain scenarios, but then like a majority of the scenarios in the game, it's kind of
And I would definitely say, if you guys like this list and have thoughts on it, please just leave a comment below. Let's get some conversations going about it. I mean, for instance, everybody likes it. I mean, Joe just said he likes it because it's from the book. I love it from the book. I don't see it being competitive. I love the thematic about it. I would take it to an event and pray I got best themed army, and if I were to get that for the voting, I'd be happy, even if I went like and whatever.
So. Number 7 pick was actually the Grey Company as well. So
nice.
It was low. So we'll go and cross that off.
So Joe's, that's fine. Then we can move straight up as well. My number 7 pick was the Black Gate Opens. So we've covered 8 and 7 real quick before that.
We had a similar mindset on that.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move into number 6. What do you got for number 6, Joe?
Number 6, I have the Men of the West.
You copycat. I have number 6 for the Men of the West as well.
Really, I think on paper this is a really good Legendary Legion, where you can take some of the mightiest heroes and the Gondor,
all the mightiest heroes.
Yeah, you can take the Gondor, the fiefdoms, and Rohan. You can take the best hard-hitting heroes possible. You can take the elite troops like the Knights of Dol Amroth. You can take a little bit of horde with Warriors of Rohan and Warriors of Minas Tirith. You got some really good support heroes like Gandalf. My biggest drawback with this Legendary Legion is there's actually two things about it. So one being is you cannot take a single mounted hero in this list.
Or mounted warrior.
Or mounted warrior, and that's a big drawback for the reasons we've discussed. It does have a really good situational rule where Aragorn can call for Frodo. You get +1 fight value around the board, making Aragorn fight 7. Yeah, only for that turn. And then,
but then, I'm sorry, that's only actually a 12-inch range. It's as long as it's on the battlefield, but it's a 12-inch range.
Yeah, so I'd see that being a really good thing for one turn, and then you could probably take down some big. It'd be good actually if you, and it's kind of again thematic reasons. If you verse the Black Gate Opens with this list, it'd be really good for that. If you're fighting a ton of trolls.
Yeah, I think this list is definitely better than the Black Gate Opens, just because, like you said at the beginning, you've got every hero. You got all the different heroes. So.
You could take, like I said, you can pretty much the deck page here is maxed out with the heroes you can take, and all of them are really good.
So, I mean, the army composition, it's Aragorn, King Elisar, Legolas Greenleaf, who can take armor, Gimli, son of Glóin, Eomer, Marshal of the Riddermark, he can take a shield, Meriadoc Brandybook, Knight of the Mark, he can take a shield, Peregrine Took, Guard of the Citadel, Gandalf the White, Baragon, Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth, Elladan Eohir, you can give them heavy armor, Captain Minister, the bow or shield, bow Endor, Captain of Rohan, bow, heavy armor, shield, throwing spear, Captain of Dol Amroth, Warrior Minister, they can have a warhorn, banner, bow, shield, or spear, Warrior of Rohan. Oh, did I say that right? Yeah, Warrior Minister, yeah, Warrior. Okay, I did. Warrior Rohan, warhorn, banner, throwing spears, bow or shield, and then Knight of Dol Amroth with either a warhorn or a banner. So, a lot to choose from. No cavalry.
Okay, and honestly, I've actually never actually played this Legendary Legion. It's one I'd consider playing just because of I think it would do really good. I actually think you could probably hoard this if again I'd be tempted. So like my mindset is because I play Rohan a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I take a lot of heroes on my list. I'd be tempted to take Aragorn and Imrahil and Éomer. Those would probably be the 3 heroes I'd like to pick, and then I would probably hoard out the rest of my army with try and just take all warrior. I'd take a handful of warriors of Rohan to pad numbers. I would take a couple of warriors Minister with a spear and shield, and then I would take some Knight Dol Amroth to be my fight 4 guys.
Yeah. So let's cover the additional rules real quick, and there's 3 of them. And it literally the first one is what we said. All models in this force must have the infantry keyword. No cavalry models are available. So that's the biggest weakness right there. The second special rule or additional rule: only Gondor hero models may lead Gondor warrior models. Only Rohan hero models may lead Rohan warrior models. And then the third one is a Men of the West force must always include Aragorn, King Elisar, who is always the army's leader. So you have to take Aragorn. So if you're trying to play this for a small event, like 600 points, you're going to be SOL. Because
you could take him and is Merry and Pippin independent heroes?
Yes, they are.
Okay, about to say you could take him, Merry and Pippin, and they can lead 6 troops each. But for the lower points game, I could see you taking Aragorn and Éomer.
Yeah.
I probably, if it was like 1,000 points and I really wanted to play this, I'd probably take Gandalf.
Yeah, I agree too, because that just gives your army something. The fact that you have no mobility means that you kind of need to be having something to defend yourself against a shooting army. So having Gandalf to be, hopefully free dicing, blinding light every turn to defend a good chunk of your army from a large shooting attack while you spend points of might to march towards your opponent,
In terms of like infantry-based Legendary Legions, I think that there's one in the I won't say it. We'll save it for that video. But I think there's one that's in the Rohan War that actually is a lot better in terms of all infantry. You can still take a lot of mighty heroes in it.
Yep.
But it has a few little things in there that does it better. Yep. Again, I think this is a really thematic one. I think it's a great part in the movie and the books when they attack the Black Gate. I haven't played it. I just look at it on a kind of a outside view. Yeah, I don't know, because like when we playtest stuff, we're kind of playtesting it for events that we want to go to,
Yeah.
and this has been one. Actually, at one point I had all the models where I could have played this, but I just never playtested it because it was one that never intrigued me as much in my playstyle.
I think thematically, again, all these legendary legions are amazing. I think they're all beautifully done. They're all well done. So the Men of the West to me is an extremely thematic legendary legion. I mean, yeah, there were no straight out of the movies. There were no cab there, which I think is weird because they walk right up to the Black Gate and they're mounted, and then they run away, and the next thing we know, oh yeah, Aragorn's horse is gone. Where the heck did his horse go? Where's everybody's mounts? Where's Shadowheart?
It's because you got to have that epic shot where Aragorn says for Frodo and then
charges. Oh yeah,
charges.
That was great.
And then Merry and Pippin follow suit.
Yeah. So there's one other special rule we didn't cover, and that is this day we fight, which you got to have his horse there for that amazing speech he did. Return of the King was just full of those. And that's whilst Aragorn, King Elisar, is alive and on the battlefield, all models from this army list automatically pass all courage tests they are required to make. So
that's actually a really big deal.
Yeah, that right there is one of the reasons why I didn't have this list lower, and I feel maybe like 6 might even be too low even for that. But the fact that you can go into any situation.
And the weird thing is I look at this and I'm like, well, I don't know. So it's the same thing with Elfhelm's profile. I looked at Elfhelm's profile and I'm like, he's kind of garbage, like in terms of his stat line. And then I started playtesting him and I fell in love with him. So it might be one of those things where I look at this and I don't think it's garbage. I think it's good. I just don't know like what scenarios you can win. Yeah, I might be able to playtest it and fall in love with it. Who knows? It might be one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's not great because of the fact that it lacks the cab, like I said. I would be interested to try it out. I don't know if I could do it at a lower points value. I think you maybe need to at least have an 800-point gain to try it out effectively.
And one thing about my top I'm just gonna say right off the bat, guys, my top 4 picks for this list is actually ones that naturally play like how the army plays in terms of like a non-legendary legion version of that.
Right.
So I'm just saying that out loud, like before we even get into the top.
The top 4.
Yeah, the top 4.
I think one of another problem I've noticed with this list too is if you take, there are a few heroes that you take that are going to be solo drops, and that really hurts you. And that's Legolas, Gimli, and the twins Elladan and Elrohir. Because of the second additional rule that says only Gondor heroes may lead Gondor warriors, only Rohan heroes may lead Rohan warriors. So, I mean, like Imrahil, he has the Gondor keyword. So Imrahil can lead warriors of Minas Tirith or knights of Dol Amroth. Gandalf the White doesn't have the Minas Tirith keyword. So he's a solo drop. I'm sorry, I forgot to include him in that. So he would be a solo drop as well. And then you've got Peregrine and Meriadoc, which are they're independent heroes. You can take those in a war band. But really the only models that can actually be taken with troops are Aragorn, Éomer, captains, Baragon, and Prince Imrahil. So I feel like that's also a weakness in the list because I feel like you want to have Gimli in this list because of the fact that he's got some good killing ability. And you want to maybe have Legolas in this list because he's got some good shooting ability. But if you take them, they're going to be solo drops. And that really kind of hamstrings you as well.
Yeah, I personally feel like if I played this, I would take Aragorn, I would take Éomer, and I would take Imrahil. And then I think those 3 would be the best picks. I think Gandalf would be maybe a good pick over. If you didn't want to take Imrahil or Éomer, you could take Gandalf. But I think that those 3 heroes are cheap enough because honestly, Éomer and Imrahil are almost the same points cost as Gandalf.
Yeah, I think I would always take Éomer just because of the fact that if you're trying to get to buff your troops, warriors of Rohan are really good for that because they're cheaper. But yeah, Aragorn, Imrahil, Éomer, they're all the 3/3/3 guys. 3 might 3 will 3 fate. 3 tie 3
yep. They're all going to hit harder.
Yeah, and that's important, especially with the fact that these guys again can't be mounted.
That's pretty much the biggest detriment to this list. If if there was an offshot, if there was an option for all the heroes to be able to take horses, but the troops couldn't or whatever, I see this Legendary Legion being maybe number 1 on my list.
Yeah. So let's move on. Let's go to number 5 on the list. Joe, what do you got for number 5?
So number 5, this is one that so Jason, you versed it. I've never versed it. I can see it being a really solid pick. I can see it winning a lot of scenarios.
Okay.
But I've never play tested it. So I've never versed it. I've never played with it.
Okay.
It's actually the Gothmog Legendary Legion.
Oh, Army of Gothmog. Okay. Yeah.
Army of Gothmog. I know in isolation that Gothmog and all the characters that are in this Legendary Legion are really good. Like, for instance, Goroth hits like a freight train. Zagdush has some really cool little sneaky rules. I know that Guritz would be really good for scenarios like Reconnoiter. I know that Gothmog Enforcer can give Gothmog some good buffs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tree Might, I believe.
Yeah, and I think, again, as I was talking about, this list, you can naturally build this list in a Mordor army. You know, if you wanted to recreate that scene and you could take it. The only biggest drawback in this list too, you can take siege engines, which is a big deal.
Yes. This is one of the only ones. I think this is the only one where you can take siege engines.
In this book, yes.
Yes. Yeah. For this book's legendary.
Yeah, for this book. Yeah. But I think that the one drawback I'd have for it, and again, this is just me. I think I would, if the Witch King of Angmar on a fell beast was an option for this Legendary Legion, I'd probably have it higher on my list just because of the abilities that it would lend you.
Yeah,
but
the ability to have fly and spells and then all the monsters. Yeah, I agree.
But the fact that you have siege engines, the fact that you have 4 really good named heroes, and the fact that you have a handful of non-named captains you can take, like a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly could see it being a good pick. And the one thing about this list too is that you can take Gothmog on a warg, you can take a shaman on a warg. You don't have any troop cav, but the catapults and the siege engines that you can take, I think, would kind of mitigate that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go run over army composition real quick. It's Gothmog, Lieutenant Sauron with he can take a warg or a shield, Endor. Goroth, Captain of the Morannon. Guritz, Master of Reserves, Gothmog's Enforcers, Zagdush, Orc Captain, Morannon, Orc Captain, which can be upgraded with a shield or a two-handed weapon, Endor. Orc Shaman, you can give him a warg. Orc Taskmaster, which is nothing to laugh at. You can get some free points of might there. Orc Drummer, which might be something to think about taking so you don't have to take a captain for March. Orc Warrior, he can be upgraded with Banner, Orc Bow, Shield, Spear, two-handed weapon. Morannon Orc, Banner, Shield, Spear. Mordor Troll, you can give him a War Drum, Mordor Siege Bow, and Mordor War Catapult, and they have the typical upgrades for siege weapons. So you got a good bit of variety. I agree with Joe on this. My number 5 is not Army of Gothmog. I'll just be honest. I have Army of Gothmog ranked higher. Because when I look at this list, like I said, this is the only one in this book's Legendary Legions that can take siege weapons, and I feel like siege weapons are a very good tool. Now, obviously, I don't believe in overloading with them because I do believe in some theme as well. But the Army of Gothmog, it did have siege weapons. I mean, they had the catapults that were shooting at the walls of Gondor or walls of Minas Tirith, trying to break it down. So that to me, that's really good. And then the fact that you have a troll again. That's really cool. So you can get some monsters in there. So while you don't have, infantry cav, like Joe said, having the Mordor Troll that can hurl stuff around can sort of replace that for knockdown ability. Because, again, you do want to try and get your numbers in there to outnumber people. So that's really good in my opinion. And then Gothmog is nothing to laugh at in combat. He's amazing in combat. I do agree. I wish you could get the Witch King of Angmar in there. But I think
thematically it would make sense.
Yeah. Well, I think this army, based off of what I'm looking at, and I'll be honest, I haven't Here's the designer notes. Just looking through it. So this legendary legion represents the forces commanded by Gothmog at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. As the fields were packed with countless orcs, we wanted this force to do the same and be a teeming horde similar to the one outside the gates of Minas Tirith. You may notice there are no Nazgul present in this force, and this is because although they were at the Pelennor, they acted mostly independently rather than as part of the army that was directly under the command of Gothmog, which is what the Legendary Legion represents. So that's why you don't see the Witch King of Angmar, is this is a thematic list. The Witch King of Angmar was the big overall. I mean, basically the chain of command was Sauron, Witch King of Angmar, then Gothmog. So this is just looking at the forces that Gothmog commanded. So I do agree with Joe, and it would be nice to get the Witch King, but I can understand why they didn't do it for this Legendary Legion. And that's what the Legendary Legions are, is for thematic effect.
Yeah, and honestly, with the heroes and the ability to take siege weapons and that you can still take trolls and stuff in this list, I don't know if you would need the Witch King. Like, of course, you can play a regular mortal army and take everything this can take and then take the Witch King. But in this too, I can see you, because you don't have the Witch King, I can see you being able to have more numbers in this list. I could probably see you at 800 points if you wanted to take a troll. If you wanted to take, you could probably take most of the named characters, and I can see you still being at 50 models.
Yeah, I think
easily.
You could definitely get. I mean, because most of these heroes are, again, I mean, we talked about Rohan in our last army review, and if you didn't see that, please go look it up, and you can find this part specifically. We covered this in Rohan, though. The heroes are pretty cheap. Goroth, Gurritz, Gothmog's Enforcers, Zagdush. Goroth is the most expensive one. The others are 60 points or less. So you're talking about the ability to get a lot of models, like Joe said, and you can play this one of two ways. You can play this and hoard out as many Orc Warriors as possible. Yeah, they're a little meh because of the fact that they are only strength 3, defense 5. I think they're defense 4, aren't they? You give them a shield to make them defense 5.
Yes, yeah, they're 4 base, 5 of the shield.
Yeah, so I mean that's Rohan, but that's nothing to really laugh at. Strength 5 is still enough. Sorry, not Strength 5. Defense 5 is still good enough that regular bows are still needing 62 wound. And this army does have a couple good special rules and additional rules. So the additional rule is an army of Gothmog must always include Gothmog, Lieutenant of Sauron, who is always the army's leader. Well, that makes sense because we just covered the designer notes, and this is showing the forces of Gothmog. The second one is Gothmog counts as a hero of the legend when part of this legendary legion. And that's really big because not only does he get to include 18 troops in his warband, now he's a hero of the legend. So first time you're broken, auto passing courage.
And he has a special rule called Tyrannical Rule. Friendly mortal orc hero models may benefit from Gothmog Steadfast as well.
Yeah, and that's really great because if he can go ahead and do that, then you're talking about increasing the range of standfasts because you got a guy that's standfast is 6 inches. So if you've got does Gothmog get 12-inch standfast?
Not sure.
Is that one of his things? I don't think it is. No, I'm looking at his profile.
It's kind of sad that I don't know that because I play tested him quite a bit.
Well, I mean, that tyrannical rule ability is still really good because if you've got your heroes spread out a little bit, so you got say a hero within 4 inches of Gothmog auto passes his stand fast his first turn with Hero Legend. Well, that guy within 4 inches now also passes. Well, since he passed, that means guys within 6 inches of him also pass. So you could basically make that 6-inch bubble and get that ripple effect, like if you throw stones into a pond and increase the ripples to spread them out. So you can really get that ripple effect across your battlefield. And like Joe said, and if you've got a lot of models, obviously being broken is going to take a while, but orcs are crap courage 2. So being able to get it so that the hero is going to go ahead and pass them if they're close enough to Gothmog. That could get a lot more of your guys to stay on the field. So it will keep the game going if you're in a position where, darn, I'm broken, but I can still salvage this to get a win.
Yeah.
And being broken isn't always a bad thing. You can be broken, so
no.
is your opponent. Some armies like to be broken.
Yep. Honestly, if you're broken and your opponent is broken and the game might end because of a dice roll and you're winning the objectives or whatever at that point in time the game ends, that's great.
Yeah. So the other special rule is the destruction of men, and this is the range of Gothmog's age of men is over special rule is increased to 12 inches. Additionally, the range of Gothmog's The Time of the Orc Has Come special rule is increased to battlefield wide. So that's really good.
Yeah,
Those are two of the better ones that he has.
You get Hatred to Men, right? The Time of the Men is over. You get Hatred to Men, 12-inch range. I mean, you got to think how many armies in the game are men keyword, including evil men like Easterlings or Harad.
So the Age of the Men is over. It gives mortal orc models within 3 inches normally of Gothmog hatred towards men, like Joe said. So now getting a 12-inch range, that's great. That's a 24-inch bubble.
Probably your entire shield wall and then some.
Yeah. So,
and then the time the orc has begun is you get to reroll all failed wounds, right?
Yep. So
yeah, and that
being battlefield wide is amazing.
Yeah, so I can see you having a really good turn where you really pair up fights and you get your heroes in there, like Goroth, your leaders, stuff like that. Your orc heroes, your orc models, you stack up dice on someone. I can see you having a really good turn where you can really crack someone's army, especially like for instance, if a Rohan army charged or didn't charge, actually be a
better.
If a Rohan army would be better. I can see you taking them out. Riders of Rohan and even Royal Guard, I can see you taking them down really fast.
Easily, yeah. And that's one of those things where maybe it's actually better to go ahead and just spam the Orc Warriors in this list because of the fact Hatred is +1 to wound. So if you got a 24-inch diameter where you're getting +1 to wound against men, pretty much every good army is man, other than elves and dwarves. But the majority of armies that are played that I've seen are men. So, Minas Tirith is a huge one still. You get Lake Town. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Lake Town, Dale.
Yeah,
Rohan, Dale, Fiefdoms, Gondor, Numenor.
Yep. Rangers.
Arnor, Rangers.
I mean, you're going to go against it. Iron Hills is still a very common list. So is Thranduil's Halls. So you have to decide if you want to mitigate to get some strength 4 guys. I would say definitely put some Morannon orcs in there, but going Mordor orc heavy is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I see, because Morannon orc, I'm just saying, for instance, if you're fighting a non-shield walled warrior of Minas Tirith, you're going to need 5s to wound.
Yep.
You would need a 6 to wound with an orc.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do the Time of the Men is over, then you're going to need 4s to wound. An orc would need a 5 in that point.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is the Age of the Men is a passive one, so that's always in effect.
Yeah.
The Time of the Orc Has Come, you only get to use that once per game. So that's what Joe was saying earlier. In a turn where Rohan doesn't get to charge, that's a great turn to go ahead and call the Time of the Orc Has Come. Because that's going to be a battlefield reroll of all strikes. With
Gothmog's Master of Battle, I can see. Well, I mean, it's thematic. I can see this list doing good against the Rohan legendary, Riders of Theoden or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though in the movie they got ran over, in the books I can see this doing good in gameplay. Of course, the first turn you're probably gonna get run over. Gondor and stuff. It depends on who initiates charges, Fiefdoms, whoever.
Yep.
I can see this list doing good against all 3 of those. If you can weather the storm of the first few turns and then get in there on your, what I was gonna say though is with Gothmog having Master of Battle, you can be throwing that heroic movement in their face the entire game. I'm gonna spend a point of mine. Okay, well I'm gonna Master of Battle that.
Heroic movement, heroic combat, heroic strikes. You can throw it against anybody, and I think that's a really good one too.
And I'm gonna be honest, guys. My top 5 picks on this list are all really close. I think this one. I've never play tested with it or against it, but I think it could be easily a number 1 pick.
I've played against it, and the one time I played against it, it's actually a battle report against Tom Carroll. So go check that out. It's from a couple of years ago. I think 2019. I won, but it was a very close game, and I believe he took the list with. This was, I want to say, it was before Goroth and Guritz and Gothmog's Enforcers came out. So I know he just had. It might not have been. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. Yeah, because it came out of this book, obviously.
I know that Gothmog was a fan favorite of his. But yeah, it's a solid list, guys. I would highly recommend playing it. If you play Mordor and you don't like the idea of taking a Ring Wraith, I think this is definitely a really solid pick.
Yeah, because you've got all those secondary heroes. So it's the 2 big heroes outside the Witch Team for Mordor are Gothmog and Shagrat. So getting up on Shagrat, I mean, that kind of stinks. I would say that if I built a Mordor list, I would probably try and include all three of those, Witch King, Gothmog, Shagrat, depending on points value. Obviously, like a 6 to 700 point, you're not going to get all three of them. But I really think the Army of Gothmog is a great way to go if you want to play Mordor and get a lot of good bonuses. The fact that you're now looking at a 12-inch +1 to wound against men range, which, I mean, that's a 24-inch diameter. That covers almost half the board. And then getting the time of the work to be battlefield wide. Yeah. And then you can also take siege weapons, which, again, like I said, I don't want to see. It annoys me to see armies that are full of them, but I do think they are a good tool to include. So
yeah, it's one of those things for me.
I have this list much higher, personally.
For me, it's diminishment returns. If you take one catapult, that's good. It gives you that tool. If you take two catapults, it's kind of one of those things where I don't know. Like, for instance, when I play my Iron Hills, Thranduil's Halls, I would only ever take one ballista because I'm not sure if I take two. One would be enough. If I take two, then I'm not sure if I'll make up that points.
Yeah, I don't think siege additions really do make them up, and I know there's people out there going, "Oh, you're gonna do," and that's fine. That's everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I would just say that with the way we've played in our group, that we know how to mitigate them enough now that taking multiples of them really doesn't make a lot of sense. I would see that taking a catapult and the siege bow would be okay, but taking two catapults, like you said, Joe, that's just kind of
two catapults. I probably wouldn't take two siege bows. I would take one and a catapult.
Yeah.
At the most.
And then don't forget, because this thing is so expensive. I mean, a Mordor war catapult is more expensive than Gothmog. You're just taking away from the ability to lead more troops, and this list wants troops. It wants the ability to get in against your opponent. Because you're only fight free, you want to get as many guys into combat as you can. That way you can get as many, +1s to wound due to hatred or reroll failed wounds in a turn as you can.
I think a sweet spot for this list would be 50 models. I think you'd want 50 models at the least.
Yeah, that's
at 800 points.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
So anyway, what is your number 5 pick?
So my number 5 pick, and this is going to be one that a lot of people out there, as soon as they hear me say it, they're going to go, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And Joe, you're probably going to be a little shocked at this too, just because of the fact you played it. But I have my reasons, and it's because I've played it. So my number 5 is the Rangers of Ithilien.
My number 3 pick.
And that's because you've played against me and lost. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll cover the Rangers of Ithilien. I'll just go down the army composition and stuff, and then we'll get into why I think it is. So the army composition is Faramir, captain of Gondor with bow. He could take a horse. Madril, captain of Ithilien. Damrod, ranger of Ithilien. Frodo Baggins with Mithril coat, sting, and elven cloak. Samwise Gamgee with elven cloak. Smeagol, captain of Minas Tirith, and can give him a horse, bow, lance, or shield. Osgiliath veterans, you can give them bow, shield, or spear. Warriors of Minas Tirith, you can give them a woolhorn, banner, bow, shield, or spear. And Rangers of Gondor, you can give a spear. And then there's the 2 new heroes that came out with the, the Quest of the Ring Bearer, I believe?
Quest of the Ring Bearer.
Yeah, and that
we'll include them in this.
Angbor.
Yep.
They have been errata into this list. So.
So I've versed your legendary. I've playtested against you like 4 times, I think.
Yeah,
So we played it. You played with it before they put the new heroes in.
Correct.
And I think that I versed you with Isengard and I beat you. It was one of the new objective scenarios. It wasn't
the one where there's 3 in the middle. I believe that's. I can't remember the name, but yeah.
Yeah, it was the scenario, guys, where there's 3 objectives in the center, or it might have been the modified capture and control one where you get extra points if you're on their side, they get extra points if you're on yours. Didn't we play 2? It was Maelstrom, wasn't it? I want to say we played on Maelstrom. I also versed you with the Shire.
Yeah, we played a Maelstrom one.
I versed you when I was playing with the Shire too.
The one that we were talking about, I don't have a stupid book with me right now. I'm sorry, but it was the deployment of the opposite corners.
Yeah.
That was
Spearhead.
Yeah, that was a weird.
I versed you in that, and I versed you with the Shire too. I forgot about that, but that was on Heirlooms Ages Past. So we played tested this one. I versed it quite a bit. So if the new profiles did not exist, They were not out. They were not going to come out or whatever. I actually probably wouldn't have this list ranked any higher than I do. It would probably be lower on the list because when I versed it pre those profiles coming out, this list, yes, you have a lot of bow shots. Yes, you have a lot of models. This list does lack Cav.
Yeah.
You can mount Faramir and you can mount Captains of Minas Tirith. And then you do have some utility heroes like Frodo with the Ring. If you really wanted to take him, I think we've kind of decided that that's a waste of
A lot of
points.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that those 2 new profiles came out, they give you the ability to take 12 more Rangers, and the fact that they have some really tricky rules in terms of shooting and stuff, ignoring line of sight or ignoring. What is it? One of them ignores woodland creature, right? And he gives them woodland creature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, no. So okay. So I believe it's Angmor. It cancels Stalk Unseen. So within
Unseen, yeah.
6 inches,
That's fine,
it's within 6 inches of him. You know, your guys can cancel out Stalk Unseen for your opponent. So that's pretty good. Everybody within 6 inches can. So basically, if you got Stalk Unseen, which is like Elven Cloak, it cancels that ability.
Yeah. So
the other one gets the free point of might every turn when shooting to either hit in the way or to wound.
So I'm basing this. This is number 3. Like I said, my top 5 picks for these could all easily be interchanged.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the reason why I have this ranked higher is because the last 2 games I versed you did have the new heroes, and the last game I versed you broke me before I could even get to you. The straight up amount of the volume of bow shots you had was staggering, and I was playing Isengard, a relatively high defense army, and it was by the time I got into fighting, I had lost. I think I was broken at this point.
Yes.
Several of my heroes had suffered a lot of wounds. And we were playing on what scenario were we playing? We were playing a scenario that actually required.
It was the capture the flag one.
Yeah,
you deploy diagonally, and you have to be at least 3 inches away from the center, and then you're trying to move your army to go grab your opponent's like jewel or whatever and get back off on your side of the board. I can't remember the name. It's one of the new ones.
So here's my thing about this list. I can see you winning Lords of Battle with it easily. I can see you winning to the death with it easily. I can see you winning capturing control with it because of the amount of models you have and the amount of shooting. You can easily take flanks out and then maneuver around. I can see you winning domination with it. Now here's where it kind of gets in the gray area, and I think scenarios like Reconnoiter, I think scenarios like Storm the Camp, are ones that you'd have to be very careful on because you get comfortable sitting back shooting. You might allow your opponent to get too close to you. So I think part of this army, I do think you need to take some Warriors of Minas Tirith in it to have defense 6. I definitely think you need to take some mounted Knights of Captains, and I think you need to take Faramir mounted to mitigate some of the lack of mobility this list has. But I think that it can win almost all the scenarios. I think you'll lose Contest of Champions against bigger heroes.
Oh, yeah, you definitely lose Contest of Champions.
Yeah, you'll lose Contest of Champions. I think that might be the only one true list that this one would suffer on. I know that mobility scenarios will be tough to win, but I think you can win them because you had 60 models at one point.
Yeah,
right?
It depends on the scenario though. So, I'll go over the additional rules real quick. The special rules. So, additional rules is Rangers of Athelian force must always include Faramir, Captain of Gondor, who is always the army's leader. That makes sense. Samwise Gamgee can only be included in your force if Frodo Baggins is also included. Smeagol may only be included in your force if both Frodo and Sam are included. And then Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol may not lead warrior models in this force. So if you take Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol, you can take them in a little warband with each other, basically. The special rules, Faramir's Rangers, and this is the one that Joe is getting towards. It's basically Rangers of Gondor in warbands led by Faramir, Madril, or Damrod do not count towards this force's bow limit. And then that has been errata to include Moblong and Angmor, and that was in the Quest of the Ringbearer book. Captured by Gondor. Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol must either be deployed together as one warband or included as part of Faramir's warband. I would never put them in Faramir's warband, just because of the fact that having Faramir's Rangers not count towards bow limit, why would you give up 3 bows and 3 much cheaper models for Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol. So there is that.
Yeah.
That's why I said they have to be taken in their own little warband together.
Yeah, and I didn't realize actually Rangers of Gondor from this list gain Woodland Creature.
Yes, that's the next rule, which is experience trackers.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So yeah, when you play tested this list, the first few times you had Frodo and Sam in it.
Yeah,
I think that having the ring is good. If you wanted to try and get Faramir in with the ring and half their fight value and try and kill him. But I think with this list, the way the last few times you took it, you didn't take him. You took the new guys and more archers. Yeah. I think personally that's the way to go. Because like I said, guys, versing it was absolutely devastating. I lost so many models before we even got into fighting, just because the straight up. This is probably the most bows you can get in a list in the game. Period.
So if you take all the named heroes, so I'm going to go ahead and not to be a jerk or anything, Joe, but I'm going to talk about why I only ranked this number 5 because I have played this list, and a lot of people have played this list and lost. So I know you have this ranked high, Joe, because of the fact that you've played it. So as someone who's played this list, I have lost games just as much as I have won games. So I know what the weaknesses are as someone who's played it. So yes, the bow shots are amazing. I will be completely honest with you. They are freaking amazing, depending on what army you play against. When playing against Joe's Isengard, his highest defense models are 6. So in that game that he's talking about where I broke him, he was actually including some Dunlin guys. So my first several turns of shooting, I was killing Wildmen. Was it Dunlin Wildmen? Their defense 3. So I'm killing them on 5s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you had what, like 12 of them in that army, I think?
Yeah, you mopped the floor with them and the Oathmaker.
Yeah. So the Oathmaker's defense 4 as well. So he has 12 of those. So you've got, all right, Madril can lead 12. Faramir can lead 15. Damrod, Moblong, and Angbor can lead 6 apiece. So combined, you can lead 45. You can take 45 Rangers of Gondor. Plus, all 6 of those heroes have bows and points of might behind them. So you're looking at 51 models with bow shots. Yeah, that's really good.
Moblong has the ability too, where he can spend a free point of might to hit the shooter in the way too.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's Angbor. It's whichever one is the blonde. I think it's the blonde one. But yeah, that extra point of might, that's really good. So, but if you've got that many bow shots and you're shooting against defense 3, defense 4 guys, your ability to get 5s is going to be much better, obviously. And even then that, it took me 3 turns of shooting to kill all 13 of those guys. Now, granted, that I wasn't shooting every single one of my bow shots into him. I was also putting him against defense 6 guys, which I did do a pretty good job of doing wounds against. I think we were played at 750, Joe, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was 750.
Yeah, it was 750 because we were practicing for the Dry Falls Auroros event.
Yep.
So, yeah, I did really good against him in shooting. Now, what Joe's lacking to say is the fact that once we got into combat, his strength 4 guys were killing me because he's Isengard. I'm defense 4 Rangers. They were, I think, the first turn of combat, he tried to get in there just to mitigate some bow shots, and I did good in it. But then the second turn, when he had finally got enough of his guys into combat, he wiped the floor. And that is the biggest weakness of this army is it's only defense 4.
Yeah, it's a similar story of hobbits.
Yes.
Where all the projectile weapons I have is gonna be devastating, but then as soon as you get into fighting, and you start losing fights, I will concede that I think that is one reason why you would want to take a captain and a warband worth of either. You can take Oscalia vets, which I keep forgetting. You can take vets, or you can take just straight warriors and Minas Tirith. I think if you do play this,
the vets are pretty good to take too because of the fact that their bonus is whenever they're within, I think, 6 inches of Faramir, they get +1 to their fight value. So that's a good way to get fight 4. But Rangers of Ithilien
are fight 4.
Yeah, Rangers of Gondor are already fight 4. So yeah, that's a good thing. So I played this list at the Dry Falls Auroros, and I had 2 major victories, a minor victory, and a major loss. So I'm going to look at the one victory was to the death, and I was fighting defense 3 Sharkies Rogues.
Ruffians.
Ruffians, yeah. It was to the death. He's starting 24 inches away. March. So even though he out-modeled me by like 20 models, I literally just sat there and shot. And yeah, I know a lot of people go, oh, there you go. You're literally breaking your own thing. Yes, I sat there and shot.
I was saying,
player, and you're taking an event to a list, and you're trying to play competitively. You should have March in your list, so you should be able to get to me. You should not give me 3 turns to sit there and shoot at you, which is what I had.
Sharky, if a model in Sharky's Rogues had March, I'm pretty sure they would take it, or I would.
Yeah, and he would have wiped the floor with me too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is I think this list can definitely win the 2 killing scenarios. I almost would guarantee against most opponents, unless you're fighting like 2 Iron Hills Chariots or something stupid.
I still disagree. You could win to the death depending on who you're fighting. I fought Sharky's Rogues. Lords of Battle, no, you're not going to win.
Lords of Battle would be one of those. You'd have to fight something squishier than you.
You'd have to fight Hobbits. You'd have to fight Sharky's Rogues. You'd have to fight something that's a defense 4 army. So maybe Harad.
Elves. Elves or Harad. I think Elves or Harad. I think
Elves, yeah. And even their defense 5 because most people play on Collegiate now, and I think Collegiate defense 6 with a shield.
They are.
So shooting wise, yeah, it's a really good shooting. But again, it all depends on people who have lost to it. I've noticed that their armies tend to be low defense armies. You talk about defense 5, defense 6. Getting 6s to wound is more easy than getting something against a defense 7 or defense 8 army. So the 2 games, the one that I lost and the one I had a major victory against, the only reason I had, minor victory. The only reason I had that minor victory is because it was, again, a scenario where I played against Joe, and I had to go and grab the jewel on his side of the board when we were deploying diagonally, and then get it back off. So basically capture the flags. That's kind of how we think of it. We call it capture the flag. Get to your opponent's side, grab their objective, run off on yours. That's capture the flag. The only reason I won that scenario is it was against the Black Riders Legendary Legion, and I just took Faramir and ran Faramir away and went and grabbed the objective. Excuse me. And all I did was get the objective onto Faramir. He was holding it. So that was literally the only thing that I scored VPs for. I wasn't broken, thankfully, and he didn't get wounded. But I got 0 wounds in shooting because the Black Riders deployed right at the line, and I had to deploy because of the terrain in a position where I was not going to get 2 turns of shooting. It was just that simple. I was only going to get 1 turn of shooting. Good shooting, anyway. And even then, he mitigated it by using March to get his guys up in front of me and then cast Instill Fear, which Rangers are low courage. They're men. They're courage 3. And the Rangers of Ithilien, or not the Rangers, the Black Riders list does the stacking -1 courage thing. So my guys were courage 1 the entire game. I got maybe 2 charges off. The rest of the game was letting him charge me and then spear supporting where I needed to in order to maybe win a fight. I killed 3 horses I think he had 8 of the what are they called? No, 7. He had 7 of the Black Riders, just because of the points value. It was an escalation event, and he had the various might will fate. But I did no wounds in shooting, so everyone, you're high shooting. Okay, again, depending on the scenario, you're not going to get 3, 4, 5 turns of shooting off. And if you are playing against this list, you should have something in your army to mitigate it. It was a rough game. I got ran over pretty hard. I got Instill Fear all over the place because that's the one that makes you move away. And at one point in the game, I thought he was about to win it because I thought he was going to be able to instill fear enough to move my guys out of the way so he could just run a what do you call it? I can't think of it. Run a
Black Rider.
Yeah, run a Black Rider and grab my objective. Thankfully, I was able to all I did was just keep moving guys backwards and bump around the objective. So that is another good thing. That is a big advantage is you do have a lot of guys. But then the game that I lost the next round, and this is a major loss, I played against Army of the Dead. So this is an all-terror army, minus 1 of my courage.
Was he
Your courage
was he playing the Return of the King Legion?
He was.
No,
He was.
all right.
Which is again another reason why I have this rank at number 5, because I have the Return of the King Legion much higher than this list. So when comparing against the 8 armies in this list, I have it lower than the Army of Gothmog, because a catapult, Mordor catapult, can drop one big strength 10 rock and devastate your lines. You know, you get a troll in there and do a couple hurls, your lines are going to be devastated again. This is a strict pony list. You have 1 model that can strike. I usually take it with a captain, like Joe said, just so I have a guy, not only to give me march, but the captain is pretty much the only one other than Faramir who's going to get knockdown ability. And Faramir only being strength 4, so this is Ranger Faramir. He doesn't have a lance, he doesn't have armor, he doesn't have shield, or heavy armor, I should say, because he's only defense 5. So you've got a very squishy leader, and he's only strength 4, so he's not even going to get anything +1 to wound. So any defense 7 or higher model, you're just praying you roll a lot of 6s, which isn't that great. It's not likely to happen.
Because you and John both took this list, and you and John both placed relatively the same.
Yeah, we both. I think I got 8, and I think he got 6 or 7. Because
yeah,
him and I had pretty much the same score, but
I think you guys had this. You guys had the same. You guys had the same set of challenges in terms of the opponents. I think he versed the Black Riders Legendary Legion either the turn before you or the turn after you, and lost.
Yeah.
It was the scenario that he lost, I think. But yeah, I think that my kind of end thought on this Legendary Legion is it's solid. You could win a lot of scenarios with it. I think that some of the scenarios that you can win with it are going to be uphill battles to mitigate some, like for instance, one of the big things is you don't get the +1 to your courage like regular Minas Tirith does. And that's something you could definitely use.
Take a warhorn really not.
Yeah.
That's the thing where this army you want to work. That is the advantage, is because you've got very cheap heroes. I mean, Faramir's like 95 points to a horse, not even 100. So,
and in terms of a thematic, so I know there are people that have versed this list. I versed this list, and I think it's good. I think it could definitely lose. I think it's definitely thematic. It recreates the scene in the Two Towers when Faramir and his rangers absolutely massacre the Haradrim, the Mumoks and stuff.
Yep.
So that's kind of my end thought on this Legendary Legion. I have it ranked at 3 only because I think I put it above. So Grand Army of the South is my number 4. I think yours is a little higher than that. Yeah. I think it.
Well, we're actually just gonna go ahead and cut it here, guys, for now, and we're gonna turn this into 2 parts because we've been going for a while. We're only halfway through our list. We'll come back next time, and Joe and I will cover 1 through 4. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.